beaucoup. Let's go get them again.
Welcome back to another episode of Samplin Samples. Today we are sampling from the brand of Cartier and their flagship release in the men's aisle now called Déclaration, which all started with my favorite perfumier of all time, Monsieur Jean-Claude Delena, which moved on to Mathilde Laurent as the in-house perfumier. Now this is the newest addition to the Déclaration series, simply called Déclaration Eau de Parfum. If you know, you know. If you don't know, they released the Parfum edition of Déclaration 2018, I believe. This one right here, so it's a newer release. But in 2024, this is a brand new release, an EDP version. So not to be confused with the 2018 Parfum edition. Now, right when I published this video today on how I'm done with designer sets, this comes across my desk for sampling samples as a new release. Guess what? Cartier delivered here. They're making me my words here. This is an excellent Déclaration release, and it emphasizes all the right things in a Déclaration release. You really need to stay tuned, as this is not just a good Déclaration release. It just might be a great one. Now, if you're new here, welcome to the Robes OA channel. I'm your host, Mark. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, much appreciated. To my returnees, merci beaucoup, of course, for tuning in. You know, all the support, I appreciate it. New releases like this, of course, kind of new to the channel. You know, I'm sampling, I'm not buying bottles. This hasn't really been touched. I saw one reviewer talk about this fragrance, one on YouTube. So technically I'm first because it was a short. And that YouTuber was talking all about the cinnamon in this. And oh, I don't know, it's an influencer. So I don't know if they know what cardamom smells like, but the cardamom in here is primary and it's a great one. So you want to tune in. The cinnamon is a secondary note in this fragrance. So let's go under the hood. Let's take a look at some stats on this one. It was released back in 2024. I think it was the later part, like December. It kind of, Déclaration is one of those flagship releases in men's. Like, it's not a 1 million flanker. It's not a Le Male flanker, right? Where everybody and their mother kind of knows what's coming and influencers are just jumping onto it because views. Déclaration is a more mature flagship, which means the kids aren't watching. So most of the influencers kind of shy away from it because it doesn't matter if it's quality or not. They're influencers, so they don't care. They're blind buying all these 1 millions and stuff that they probably won't be wearing because they're the same age as me. However, they're ignoring something like this, which is actually quality. It's really, really good. Now, the nose behind this, the only downside of me reviewing these things like so early is that there's no perfumier attached to this on the internets at all. But Cartier has an in-house perfumier, so educated guess is Mathilde Laurent penned this, and Eau de Mathilde do well. Mathilde's an excellent perfumier. They're very lucky to have her at Cartier, but yeah, what a great set. Let's take a look at the note breakdown. Very simple, straightforward note breakdown. Icy ginger up top, cinnamon, cardamom in the mid, and then smoked tea in the back end. What a great tea note. So we got to talk about, you know, the major notes in this fragrance, or the ones that really do a lot of damage, or just really are the emphasis of this fragrance. I would say, and these are not new notes to the branding of Déclaration. It is known as, has some cardamom and it has some tea in it, but the smoked tea accord and the cardamom are pillars. I would say the cinnamon's kind of like the third wheel. If I had to pick ginger and cinnamon, they both do equally their parts, so you could go either way. But honestly, the cardamom here is probably the star of the show, but the tea is the wow factor because I love a good tea note. A good cardamom note is good, but a tea note really just does a lot for me. It calms me down. It helps me focus. And these kind of scents that have a strong tea note really are ones that I gravitate towards. Cardamom's okay. You know, I'll smell a good cardamom. I'll be like, that's pretty good cardamom. But a really good tea note excites me just a little bit more as a fragrance head. Now, I've been wearing this for 3 days now, including today is my scent of the day. Today I have the dry down here, but I'm going to completely ruin that. Happy I got notes, but I'm going to remind me of the introduction of this one. Launching, did not leave the room. That was a flat landing. Man, What an introduction. Now, oh, the introduction of this one's spicy. And it gives you a huge, and I mean a huge, and it's kind of like a Déclaration d'un Soir here with that rose note in it, right? Really authentic, beautiful, just you're almost pinpointing that note and just going, I don't care about the rest. The rose is so good at Déclaration d'un Soir. Sometimes you just can't believe it's a designer fragrance that was sold for so little because it kills a lot of high-end niche roses. And the cardamom in here is on the same pace as that. It's gorgeous. Now it's backed right away, like both 1-2 punch here with a smoked tea note. A little cinnamon. Well, we'll give that reviewer a little bit of love here, a little bit of cinnamon. Now, it's spicy, and it's what the doctor ordered for a Déclaration, for a spicy, brown in color type of tea-like scent. Perhaps a little citrus splash may have done this intro justice, but I love that it goes straight up spicy tea. I feel like there's more than just cinnamon and cardamom and ginger in here. So the ginger gives it a little bit of brightness, but the ginger does its thing a little bit in this opening, I'll be honest. But I think there's a little bit of clove in here as well. And depending on which material they utilized, cinnamon and clove could be close cousins here. So I could see why I kind of get a little bit of clove in here. It feels like a warm sweater, like something like a warm tea would do when you're a little under the weather. The cardamom is full throttle here with its rich and complex nuances. I can almost smell the cardamom shell texture here. Really, it is beautiful. I get that warmth, the sweetness, the spicy facet of the note. Think chai tea a bit, and you know where I'm kind of going here. It has that ginger backing it up with a little bit of a clove cinnamon touch. Such a beautiful scent profile up top. Like, it screams fall right now. It just makes me it makes me miss fall, actually. I want some leaves on my trees here outside where there's none here in the middle of winter. Very spicy, but oh so good. Now, when we're talking about Déclaration spicy, and this is the original Déclaration, I got a limited edition silver bullet bottle. When we're talking about that, Elena utilized his caraway cumin kind of thing, like a little bit of funk, right? And you're talking heavy spice in this release, and I can't keep on moving on this review without talking about that. Now, you lose that caraway cumin-like note, that little funk that Elena utilized in the original Eau de Toilette. So you lose a lot of that edge, even though I don't think it was actually even listed as an official note, but it was there in the Eau de Toilette. Now, you do lose a lot of that edge, but the the cardamom in here is so good. And that ginger back in it, which is actually stronger than the cinnamon, I'll be honest. Like, the more I'm smelling my arm here, the more I'm smelling the ginger cardamom combo, which is so, like, just think about a ginger cardamom kind of tea, right? You're kind of under the weather, and that's kind of where it's going. Moving into the mid, the scent profile, I felt there's a little more than what's given to us in the note breakdown. Mainly a little bit of an ambery glow. And I felt a little bit of the cedar from the original peeking through a bit. So you're getting a little bit of woods. The tea and spices follow suit. So they are basically, they're full throttle up top. And really, you know, with fragrances like this, you're kind of expecting some of them to lose their edge, but they're really hand in hand in this release. They continue to throw out. And honestly, the scent profile does not move much from the introduction. So if you like that, it's going to lose that little bit of edge that the ginger gave. But that warmth, that comfiness, that tea-like facet and the spiciness is all still there. An intro that good really doesn't need to move much in the back end at all. So I was happy to see this one just pushing through with minimal changes. Yes, maybe I would have liked a lot more complexity. Yes, I might have liked more of a citrus punch up top with the spices, but you remove that and you remove some brightness out of the fragrance. And I think the ginger gives it what it needs in the introduction, enough that I'm happy with it. This one is outstanding for tea and spice lovers. Absolutely a great addition. It doesn't pull away too much from the original DNA from the Eau de Toilette. Overall, another excellent flanker to the Déclaration series from Cartier. They really do well with this line, and this is definitely bottle worthy on my end. I will be getting a bottle, and I don't think I'm going to be waiting too long for this one. I really think that I am going to get this one shortly. Now let's get into seasons, day, night, versatility, and performance. Seasons. This has fall written all over it with a capital F. Winter, it can be done as well. These Canadian winters, like right now, while I was testing it, right, we're in the thick of it. We're in February here in Canada, and our winters kind of extend into April, May sometimes. Yeah, scary a little bit, right? And we're in the thick of things like minus 40, minus 30 Celsius. It's here now. And this thing did not shy away from those. Like, I went out a few times with this Déclaration Eau de Parfum, and it was doing well in this winter in regards to the push. Day or night, I feel like this is more of a nighttime scent. However, right, casual hoodie, just relaxing in the house, or you know, working. I think these tea notes, it makes me think of like focusing, right? If I'm working on a fragrance review, not that I would be wearing another fragrance, but it was so easy to write this review because this fragrance just helped me focus. I don't know, these tea-like fragrances, it's definitely bottle worthy on my end. So nighttime, but also can be used in the daytime as well. Versatility, very high. Obviously, you're not gonna wear this in the plus 40 heat in the desert. However, I feel like this would do, spices do so well and tea do so well when it rains. So those tweener months of fall and spring, it will work so, like the cooler spring, you know, the start of spring, right? There's still snow on the ground, and I know I'm Canadian imagery, still snow on the ground, but you got rainy days. The spices would just pop on here, and the tea as well. In the fall, same thing, you know, the snow starts coming in. Really high versatility for almost, you know, 3/4 of our calendar year, honestly, and even a summer night, I could wear this. Performance, longevity and projection. Longevity was good, and with little samples, right? You can't. Personally, for me, I get more out of my sampling samples. I've noticed this, that I try to go a little light on the trigger on one wearing. On the other wearing, I go a little heavier on the wearing because it's sample, so I'm limited, and just see if there's any differences. And then the third wearing is just basically my usual. So the longevity was really good. 6 to 8 hours. Yeah, it's a little less than a 7 to 9, but 6 to 8 is very average for a designer, maybe even a little above average. So it's really good. It's not beast mode fragrance. And with projection, this one plays tricks on me. And usually with sampling samples, you don't really get that from me. It's more in real reviews that I go, okay, I wore this like 10 times, and you know, it's kind of like a chameleon. Like sometimes you think it's off your skin and then it comes back up. But yeah, above average projection, twice that I wore it, and the light-handed even, when I wore it just lightly on my skin, it came back hours later, and I was like, oh, she's gone. Okay, this is gonna be like a 5 to 6 hour type of thing. No, hour 7, boom, right back. And I was like, okay. So you got above average projection on this one, and really, really good. Like that's, you know, it's not overly abundant that it's beast mode, but it's very, very good as far as performance. So my final thoughts on this one, another solid Déclaration release. Crickets in the fragrance community, it's the way I like it, right? You guys keep pushing your fragrances like the new Le Male elixir and all that, and I do have actually a sample of that, but like they get all excited about these little teeny bopper things, and here we are, grown men. Final thoughts on Déclaration as a line. It is quietly the flagship of Cartier in the men's aisle for the brand. It didn't come out with too much flash, just plain solid. And, you know, the original Déclaration from Jean-Claude Helena, you know, came in and was just overall solid. And this one right here is in the exact same vein. You know, Helena pretty much built his Terre d'Hermès lineup. He kind of built it on the platform of Déclaration, if you didn't know. The Déclaration idea really, you could see that he stole a little bit of that to put Terre d'Hermès and a few other Hermès actually. But as for this EDP version of the Eau de Toilette from the 90s, it took the ginger, it took the cardamom, it took the cinnamon and the tea from the original Eau de Toilette and gave it its own spin. Like, this is not a redundant release. Like, I talk about flankers all the time about just going, you know, it's going to carry over. No, different volumes. And this is something that I always talk about. And your fragrance reviewer should be talking about textures, and even like fragrances like this will remind you of music or colors or things like that. And that's the great thing about perfumery, is not just sexy this and beast mode that and all that. And it just reminds me of this reviewer that I saw that reviewed this and said, oh, there's so much cinnamon. I'm just like, what are you talking? Do you even know what cardamom smells like, buddy? Like, it's not very hard. Get essential oil. You're a fragrance reviewer. You are an established fragrance reviewer. You should know what cardamom smells like, what's primary, what's secondary. I know all our noses are different, but saying that cinnamon is a top primary note in this, ooh, that's stretching it. And again, there's not much in this. There is cinnamon in this, so I'll give them that. But, oh, now, so it's an old idea, yes, but it's a new spin, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And quality, right? All across the board. The ones that I've smelt from Déclaration, from Cartier, have all been solid. I haven't met one bad one yet from Déclaration. So if I had to give it a score currently, whew, it's gonna get a good score. Return back to it. Okay, I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. Right, 8 out of 10 is like, okay, it's bottle worthy, but I'm not in a rush to get it. 9 is, you know, I'm not gonna blind buy it immediately. You know, it's not a 10. However, it's gonna be one of those fragrances that I could see in my top 20s, especially for fall, spring, winter even. It is one of those fragrances that I would like. It can be in the rotation. And with you know, such a huge collection like this, that's kind of a hard statement to say, because there's not too many in the rotation. There's fragrances on here that I probably haven't smelt in 5 years. They're just sitting there. And that's the honest truth. As a fragrance reviewer, you know, almost you're always discovering. So it comes to the point that your current collection kind of gets ignored a bit unless you force yourself. So the scent of the day is probably testing something. Your scent of the night, you're probably testing something. As a true reviewer, like a real one that doesn't go on fragrancing and goes, okay, yeah, cinnamon's the best. So a 9 out of 10, another great release from Cartier. Wow, I'm so happy because this kind of, it always flies under the radar a little bit. I'd be surprised on how many reviews there's going to be on this fragrance. Hopefully this puts a little bit of spotlight on it. But, you know, what a great release. Now that you heard my take, I'd love to see yours in the comments below. Good, bad, and the ugly. That ginger is really popping on here. Like the past 3 wearings, like when I wrote my script for this, the ginger is not lasting as long as, like, this is probably a 10, you know, I've probably been talking for about 10 minutes here. That ginger is really doing its thing here with the cardamom and tea. Maybe it's a little heavier. Maybe it's the 3rd one today. So I'll put it as the 3rd note in that introduction when I'm in the editing room floor, because that ginger is really popping now. Interesting how, and that's why wear your fragrances before you review a fragrance. You know, wearing them several times will give you different facets. So I can't wait to see the comments below. I don't know how many people have smelt it, but if you haven't smelt it, talk about Déclaration, the line. I'm missing quite a bit of the fresh ones. You know, I own the original Eau de Toilette, the Parfum edition. I own Déclaration d'un Soir and its flanker, the Intense version, which is very rare. But, you know, there's a Fraîcheur edition, and there's quite a few more. So if you have nothing to add on this EDP, which I highly suggest to go check it out if you can in your country. But if you've smelt others from the line that you think is great, tell me in the comments below. Tell me why it's great. Like, what does it emphasize? And I may get a sample. I may even get a bottle. It smells, if it sounds really, really good. And as always, a great or poor fragrance will make a lasting impression. Choose your Déclaration flanker wisely. Sometimes, really, honestly, you choose any of these on here, you're fine. A lot of good ones right here. Thanks for watching, YouTube. Have a good one.